Hello and welcome back to another episode of A Weekly Waypoint. Today we are playing Warhammer 40k Darktide, and just a heads up, I have very little experience with this game, so once again,
apologies for what you're about to see.
Except replace the sword with a hatchet and a gun, and whoever Davros is about to fight, spoilers, with some vague version of heretics that I have yet to really pass. All I know is that they must be purged, and I am more than willing to do the God Emperor's will. I am, of course, still a newbie to Warhammer 40k and Warhammer in general, and that's going to be one of our topics for today, hence the choice of game. But just to talk about Darktide in general for a second, I did play this a tiny bit when it first came to Game Pass, and I very quickly, didn't find it to be very fun or interesting or good. So I don't know why, but the second time round, I'm having a much better time. Maybe it's because I downloaded it on PC and it just plays better on PC. Maybe it's got a low frame rate or a blurry resolution on Series S and I'm just not remembering that when I'm factoring that into my memories. Maybe they've just made subtle updates to it over the years or year or however long it's been. But yeah, I'm having a great time. I love just queuing up with randoms and doing one. I don't yet have enough experience with the game to understand the shape of it fully. I haven't reached endgame or anything like that, but I'm literally just queuing up for random matches and it's quite fun. So yeah, expect plenty of I might miss something oblivious, or I might pick up something that wasn't strategic for me to pick up at the time. I'm still learning. I'm just out here doing my best. I didn't even realize I'd chosen kind of a single shot rifle kind of a weapon when I loaded into this. And it's not the choice of weapon I would normally bring to this kind of a shooter. But I think it worked out pretty okay. So if you are someone who happens to watch the Weekly Waypoint on a week-to-week basis, I'm not sure any of you actually exist, I think you're all inside my head. You may remember last week I was talking about attempting to read the Warhammer novels without knowing much else about the universe, like the Warhammer fantasy stuff, and you may be able to trace A to B. Of course I did do that. I did finish the first Gotrek and Felix novel, and if you want to hear my thoughts on that, I have a video in which I talk all about it. It was intended to be full spoilers, but I didn't really end up talking about many spoilers. There's mild spoilers in there for one of the stories. But yeah, of course this ended up being a descent into Warhammer intrigue, and I spent a decent amount of time, investigating the franchise, investigating the universe, investigating the company, what makes it, and all this stuff, all the different facets of Warhammer, like painting miniatures and stuff like that. Stuff I already knew some stuff about, but can I stop saying the word stuff? But yeah, I'm by no means an expert just after a week of looking into it. But I actually, for the first time, considered miniatures. I went to the website and I looked up some models and I looked at the prices and I looked at the painting and I went, yeah, no. I mean, some stuff's more affordable than I thought it would be if you just buy the odd miniature every now and again. It doesn't always have to be the big stuff or the big kits and packs and stuff. I was looking at the old world miniatures and there was this, I guess, chaos guy on a horse. And I liked the look of him and he was 19 quid and I was like, that's pretty cool. But of course I have no experience with painting, and I looked at the one in the picture and I went, mine wouldn't look anywhere near that good. So that's one of the reasons I held off. Another is I just don't really have any room for them. I've put together a few Lego things in my life, and there's a kind of zen-like calm which comes over me by doing that, and I feel like Warhammer miniature painting would incite the same kind of zen-like calm. At least when I got to a point where I knew what I was doing and I knew how to steady my shaky hands. But I just worry that by the time I'm done putting it together and painting it and everything, it's just not gonna have anywhere to live and it's just gonna gather dust somewhere. I have no intention of playing the war games or learning how to play them, so yeah, unless I have somewhere that I could display them and slowly build up an army over the course of months or something. Yeah, I don't know. That being said, I do have a friend who's a little bit more into it than I am, and they told me that next time they're down, they'll take me into the shop. It's not called Games Workshop anymore, is it? It's just called Warhammer, isn't it? They said they'll take me into a Warhammer store and we'll do the tutorial painting sessions that they do, and I'll see how I like it there. So I will update you on how I feel about that whenever I do that. But yeah, while I'm definitely leaning more towards the old Warhammer fantasy world and then maybe Age of Sigmar when I know more about it, just like with everything, Warhammer tends to push you towards 40k. They're like, yeah, but look at the popular one we're doing. Look at the we like this one a lot, and everyone likes this one. So, it's like when I decided I was going to play Darktide, it wasn't Darktide I initially settled on, it was Vermintide, because I own Vermintide on Steam and I'd never given it a proper look, and I was like, oh, that takes place in the Old World, which is, it takes place in the End Times era of the Old World, but that's what I'm currently reading about and stuff. And so I downloaded it, I loaded it up, and the servers were down, and I looked it up, and the servers are just down quite a lot of the time, because it's an old game, and there's probably like one person who maintains it and looks in on it once every, third Saturday. So just like everything else, it was like, yeah, but that's the old stuff. You don't care about the old stuff. Go play 40k. So here we are in Darktide. And I do like 40k. I like the lore behind it. I've watched some lore videos and stuff. But it is a bit of a bleak world, and I do find that I have a limit when it comes to spending time immersed in bleak worlds as opposed to grimdark fantasy worlds. It's slightly different in my eyes. But anyway, enough about Warhammer, because believe it or not, that's not the only thing I hyperfixated on for a period of time this week. In fact, you know what, before we get to the main thing, I just want to talk about the fact that I've kind of been all over the goddamn place this week. There have been so many games and shows and books and things that I've just been like, yes, sod it. Like, this is probably a byproduct of the fact that a few weeks ago I made that whole weekly waypoint talking about the fact that I was going to stop overthinking, like, oh, I need to read this entire series in this order before I go and read this one, etc., etc. But I really have just been all over the goddamn shop this week. But okay, let me see if I can recall for you the breadth of the amount of universes I have waded through this week. Obviously, I finished the Gotrek and Felix novels, so we've got Warhammer the Old World, /fantasy, /the world that was, /whatever the fuck it's called. Plus there's Warhammer 40k, because that's a separate thing and we should count it as such, and that's from playing Darktide and a little bit of Rogue Trader when I hit Game Pass. I also bought Hello Kitty Island Adventure this week. I know, tonal whiplash, but that's because it's a game that's very much in the style of Animal Crossing, and I love those kinds of games. I did not let the fact that it was Hello Kitty stop me from giving it a go, and I'm glad I didn't, because it's great. That's right, real men play Hello Kitty. No, seriously, that game is so charming, I love it. I also played some Ghost of Tsushima, because I realized I hadn't played that in like a month, and I didn't want to forget how to play it, and have to relearn all the combat and stuff. Avowed came out this week, which I feel like any other week might be the headline thing that I talk about in the weekly waypoint, but I've really just been that all over the fucking place. I haven't got all that far through it. I am 4.8 hours through Avowed, and yeah, I don't know. I've got things to say about it. It didn't make a great first impression on me, but it did end up growing on me. But in terms of RPGs, I might have been distracted by the fact that everyone's talking about Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition coming out, and I went, man, that is a universe I still really want to get into, so I continued a 4-year-old save file of Xenoblade Chronicles. That's going pretty swell. Also been playing some Pokemon Sword, and some Pokemon Legends Arceus, come to think of it. Then in terms of things I've been watching, I dipped back into Star Trek The Next Generation, which I'm still slowly plodding my way through. I've also been watching every single Daredevil interview for Born Again that's coming out March 5th, because I'm obsessed with that upcoming show. In terms of books, after I finished Gotrek and Felix, I decided I was going to read one of those every now and again instead of binging the whole series, so I decided to start up my Mistborn reread by way of audiobook for the first time. And then comes the mistake. Viewer, I made a mistake. I realized that, I accidentally skipped over Tales of a Sun Eater Volume 1 because I do want to read everything in that universe that's available. And so after finishing Demon in White, I decided to go back and read it, but I noticed it was available for free on Kindle Unlimited, which was offering a 1-month free trial to me because I haven't tried this service since 2016. Viewer, I am about to info dump on you about Kindle Unlimited, the service. Before I do, please understand, Kindle have actually had some bad press recently because they are taking away your ability to download and transfer via USB your books onto older Kindle devices, which basically means you will have no way of downloading your books, ergo you do not own your Kindle books anymore. Amazon is a shitty company. They also have their fingers clutched around so many franchises we care about, so I'm not going to pretend to try to boycott them, but just so you know, that is a shitty thing that they are doing before I go on to praise the service. It's not even really praising the service, it's more analysing whether it's right for me. So, Tales of a Sun Eater Volume 1. Grab Kindle Unlimited, I'm going to read it. It's not that expensive of an ebook, I could have just bought it for £3.50. I honestly almost did that, but I thought, I might as well try and save a little bit of money where I can. I'm sure I'm going to read this before my 1 month trial is up. But since I had Kindle Unlimited, I decided to poke around. Very quickly, my previous experience with Kindle Unlimited and my previous opinion on it was that it was absolutely 100% not worth it, because most of the books that they had were just like book 1 of free, and then you had to buy book 2 in free. Like, usually that's what Kindle Unlimited was. It felt like just almost like a free trial of book trilogies, and in many ways it kind of still does, but that's more on the comics end of things, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But yes, 2025 is a very different time to 2016, and so I was looking through their books again, and I noticed that, for instance, they have every book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series on Kindle Unlimited, including the one that just came out, so that's pretty cool. Overall, in terms of speculative fiction, they still have a very limited selection in my opinion, but they do have some series I would be interested in checking out. But yeah, if I'm just doing it for the books, I still don't think it's worth it, because it's probably going to take me at least a month to read most of these books, and you can buy those books for pretty much the price of the month of Kindle Unlimited you would have anyway. So discussions around not owning your Kindle books aside, I don't see the point of temporarily renting them for a month when I could, for pretty much the same price and reading speed, just quote-unquote own them and not be worried about time limits and stuff. So, Kindle Unlimited for Kindle books, not worth it. Glad we've established that. If I was maybe like a fan of romances or mysteries, shorter books with a lot more variety on offer, assumedly, maybe it would be more for me, but as a speculative fiction reader, probably not for me. But then I took a step back and went, well, it's not 2016 anymore. There are other parts to this service that I should check out too. First of all, audiobooks. For some unfathomable reason, Kindle Unlimited has a selection of audiobooks which aren't tied to Audible. They're their own thing. I don't know what's going on with that, why they're two separate services. Frankly, if they combined Kindle Unlimited and Audible into one service, it would be a powerhouse. But yeah, I took a look around, and there's nothing in the Kindle Unlimited audiobook sphere that's there for me, so we're going to cross that one off as well. Audiobooks, not worth getting Kindle Unlimited for. Not for speculative fiction anyway. Next tab, magazines. Now, I've never been a huge magazine guy, but I was subscribed to PC Gamer for a few years. And coincidentally, PC Gamer is actually one of the magazines available here. The others that stood out to me were Retro Gamer, Edge magazine, VFX magazine. I've never read those 3 magazines, so I have some idea as to the quality of them, having looked through them since, but, you know, if there's any kind of past controversies or questions about journalistic integrity surrounding those outlets, I don't know yet, feel free to let me know. But I did have a really good time reading VFX because it had a lot of interviews regarding Daredevil Born Again, and just in general I liked the kind of suite of stuff that it covered in terms of entertainment regarding the MCU, DC Comics, Doctor Who, Big Finish audios, which still feels like a long kept secret regarding just like the general nerd culture database of stuff we care about. So I was really excited to see them covering Doctor Who audiobooks. Not audiobooks, sorry, you know what I mean, Big Finish audio dramas. And I realised, I think the magazine side of Kindle Unlimited does add to the value for me. I wouldn't go out of my way to subscribe to these magazines or read them otherwise, but so yeah, you know, getting Kindle Unlimited solely for the magazines, that's another strikeout. By the way, I unexpectedly had to go AFK here, not ideal, so there's a time skip to when I get revived after I inevitably die. But yeah, I never thought I would care about digital magazines, but keep in mind I do have an iPad, and they do read quite nicely on there. Next up, Comixology. I wasn't going to bother with this because Marvel Unlimited and DC Universe Infinite exist, and I currently have a year's subscription to Marvel Unlimited, and at any point for the same price as Kindle Unlimited, I could subscribe to DC Universe Infinite for a much greater span of comics and availability of comics to read. I say comics, I know people say graphic novels, I know, I'm sorry. But yeah, here's the thing. Here's where I fell down a rabbit hole. Here's what has consumed my entire day and got me legit considering keeping Kindle Unlimited. Maybe not Audible and Kindle Unlimited at the same time because I despise giving Amazon money. But I might choose them interchangeably. You know, when I have a decent amount of audiobooks backlogged for me to go and I don't need to continue buying credits every month, I might just put that on ice and get this instead. And here's why, okay? Okay, I'll say it outright. Getting Kindle Unlimited for graphic novels, again, probably not worth it, but as opposed to Marvel Unlimited or DC Universe Infinite, Kindle Unlimited collects scans of trade paperbacks. If you don't know about comics, basically trade paperbacks are collected volumes of usually like anywhere between 5 to 7 issues, but it won't always be as simple as like issue 1 to 7, issue 8 to 13 or whatever, because comics aren't always that simple. Sometimes the continuity gets weird and messy. Sometimes they're going to spend a bunch of issues dedicated to, an inter-comic event, and you have to go look up a reading order for it. Or sometimes it just feels like filler while they're trying to find a new writer who has their own ideas for a nice big storyline. So reading the trade paperback volume scans can actually feel like a much more easy and casual way to enjoy the universe. The big caveat to that is, of course, the limited availability on Kindle Unlimited. I spent my entire afternoon researching the DC Rebirth kind of era of comics, and I found out that I did this great big spreadsheet, and I found out that for some titles they have every volume, for some titles they have a decent amount of volumes, but they stop about like 3/4 of the way through or maybe halfway through, and then they just don't have some lines. So to give you an example, they have all 19 volumes of The Flash from 2016 all the way up to what I believe is probably the 2023 soft reboot. They have almost every volume of Nightwing, but they are missing the last 3 or 4. And Aquaman is just absent. And by absent, I mean it's still available to buy. You can still buy these trade paperback scans, but as far as like the Kindle Unlimited service goes, that's absent. So just in terms of like, if you want to get into DC Comics, DC Universe Infinite is unquestionably the better service for you. But something about the trade paperback collections really appeals to me, probably because for ages I've been wanting to kind of like have a start, a middle, and an end, a book to review on the channel. And I know I could just like go and look up what each volume collects and go and read those issues individually. This is very much just a convenience thing, and the convenience thing by itself is also very much definitely not worth the price of Kindle Unlimited over DC Universe Infinite. But also Kindle Unlimited has some Doctor Who comics, you know, it has some IDW comics like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Sonic the Hedgehog. If that's your bag, it might be mine, I haven't checked it out yet. It has the Fable graphic novels, it has the Walking Dead graphic novels, you know, it has some kind of stuff that's not just tied to Marvel or DC. It has Invincible graphic novels, it has The Boys graphic novels. Again, not every single one, but a decent amount of them. So to summarize, no, Kindle Unlimited is not worth it for any individual thing that Kindle Unlimited offers. But when you take into account the Kindle books, the monthly magazines, and the trade paperback selections of graphic novels, I do think it might be worth it. Again, Amazon fucking suck, other services are available, but as a nerd slash geek slash whatever we want to call ourselves, looking for an affordable way to experience these stories and universes that I love so much, Kindle Unlimited might actually be something I dabble in every now and again. For the record though, this does mean I have not made much progress in Tales of the Sun Eater because, yeah, I got very distracted very quickly. I went very far down that rabbit hole, as you can plainly see. But yeah, I spent my afternoon and evening kind of drawing up this great big checklist of the different available DC Universe Rebirth era comics that I want to read, starting with The Flash. I've already read some of volume 1 of The Flash, the one called Lightning Strikes Twice, and I don't know yet because I haven't put it into practice. It might feel like I'm stopping to record a video too often. I do this for a hobby after all, and I don't want to ruin my comic reading experience, but I do like the idea of being like, okay, finish volume 1, make a video review about it. Start on volume 2, make a video review about it. Because something I did notice is that these comics are very highly reviewed pretty much across the board. It might just be Amazon's rating system, I don't know, but I didn't see a single one rated less than 4 stars. And you know, maybe there's a huge disparity between a 4.8 and a 4.1, I don't know, but from what I saw, people seem to like these comics slash graphic novels slash I don't know, drawings, scribblings on paper, whatever. Well, it's not paper anymore, is it? We're reading these on our iPads. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. Anyway, that was very info dumpy, so thank you for bearing with me. One thing I did forget to mention is one of the things that kind of like I have been a little hesitant with has been the magazine side of things, because I do kind of feel like magazines are a little bit junk foody in terms of like, if I'm sitting down and reading something, I kind of want it to be either a book or a graphic novel. I want it to be something of substance. I want it to be something, you know, narrative or whatever. But at the same time, I'm just like thinking about how much I enjoyed reading through SFX magazine. I'm like, yeah, well, you know, if I'm enjoying it, whatever. I don't need to get snooty just as long as I'm not reading magazines and nothing else, I guess, because then it wouldn't be worth it. But yeah, I've had a hungering for some DC comics for a while now, and that's probably part of what's manifesting here in this hyperfixation I've suddenly got about fucking Kindle Unlimited of all things. If Marvel Unlimited and DC Universe Infinite just included like a browse by volume, like trade paperback collected volume instead, honestly a great amount of my interest in Kindle Unlimited would fly straight out of a window, which again is funny because it's like the smallest of selling points, it's the smallest convenience. But I don't know, when you load up those apps and you see the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comics and you're like, oh, but where's the substance, where's the ones that people love, and you look it up and people are like, oh, you need to read issue 307 to 328, then skip to 347 all the way up to 492, and then what you want to do is you want to start with volume 2, which resets it. It's like, oh, come on, man. It's so much easier to just be like, oh yeah, start with Court of Owls, it's a really good starting on point, it's a really good book, it's got a couple of like direct sequels, and yeah, it's I just prefer talking about stuff in terms of books. It's also worth noting I was just using Rebirth as kind of like a research and an example. I did notice they do have some New 52 stuff on there, and they do also have some, it's a lot more spotty, but some older stuff before that too, like Under the Red Hood is on there. Also, if you're going to look for graphic novels on Kindle Unlimited and browse by popularity, watch out, because when you get to page 5, you do reach the hentai line, and you will start seeing body parts up in your face. Can't say I was entirely prepared for that. It kind of took me unexpected. I did also look into the Kobo subscription service just because I was like, am I being stupid? Am I giving Amazon money unnecessarily? And unfortunately, I didn't like what I saw there. But go have a look for yourself. You might just have different tastes to me, and Kobo might appeal to you more, and you might not have to feel bad about handing over money to our corporate overlords. Either way, this episode has been one hell of an info dump, so thank you for sticking with it if you're still with me, which I'm sure you are if you're hearing these words. I'm gonna go do something, I don't know. I'm gonna try and not get distracted by anything else new for a little while. I'm gonna go make progress in a world somewhere. I'm gonna go play some more Xenoblade Chronicles, or I'm gonna go read some more of The Flash or something. I'm gonna go listen to Michael Kramer tell me about Mistborns. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in whatever I make next.